Sung Jinwoo, considered the weakest hunter in the world, enters a dungeon gate with his friend Lee Joo-hee and other strong hunters. After the boss is killed, the gate does not collapse, but instead reveals a second connected dungeon. The party is split evenly on whether or not to proceed, but Sung casts the tiebreaker to send them down into the second half of the double dungeon. The party finds the dungeon empty, save for a large room filled with statues, which come alive and begin slaughtering the hunters. Sung realizes that the dungeon they are in has specific rules by which to survive the statues. First, to revere God. Second, to praise God. And finally, to prove your faith to God. Several hunters are killed as Sung and the senior hunter leading the party, Song Chiyul, slowly manage to decipher the instructions on how to survive. Finally, only Chiyul, Joo-hee, who has collapsed from the stress, and Sung are left, and Sung tells Chiyul to evacuate with Joo-hee while he holds the door. Left alone, Sung rages against his imminent death. However, as he dies, he receives a message that he has completed the hidden quest and may become a player if he accepts the offer. Sung wakes up after 3 days of sleep, initially thinking that he might have only dreamed the events of the double dungeon. Investigators from the Hunters Association confirm that it really did happen. Joo-hee is traumatized, and Chiyul is reportedly retiring after losing his arm. They then check to see if Sung experienced the very rare second awakening in which a hunter experiences an increase in ability. The test results come back negative, however. Sung discovers a message similar to the one that declared him a player, with daily goals to hit and a penalty for failing to complete them. After skipping the first day and nearly dying when he is thrown into a penalty quest, Sung begins completing his daily goals. He receives stat bonuses and loot boxes, which result in him receiving a special item, an instance dungeon key. He then enters and is confronted by a wolf monster stronger than anything he had fought before. Sung successfully kills the wolf and gains a level. More wolves appear, and he continues through the dungeon, killing more and more, gaining more strength before defeating the dungeon's boss. Meanwhile, outside the instance, a dungeon break occurs, allowing a golem to enter the real world. Arriving hunters, including a PTSD-stricken Joo-hee, fail to deal any damage to it. Emerging from the instance, Sung is guided to the battle and throws his broken sword into the golem boss, shattering its defense and allowing the gathered hunters to take it down. He departs, reflecting that the golem must have been more injured than he'd expected. Sung then joins C-rank hunter Hwang Dong-suk and his 5 associates in a pickup group to tackle a C-rank insect dungeon, with the contract stipulating that Sung doesn't have to fight, but won't get any battle drops. Sung becomes suspicious of Dong-suk's motives due to the situation. Rounding out the 8-member requirement to enter the dungeon is first-timer D-rank Yu Jinho, whose family wealth has gotten him equipped with very expensive and powerful gear. After the hunters defeat a wave of monster ants, they find the dungeon boss, a giant sleeping spider, in a room with highly valuable, mineable mana crystals. Jinho reviews Sung's contract and notes that since the crystals aren't battle drops, Sung should get a full share. However, Dong-suk and his party spring their plan to keep everything and trap Sung and Jinho in the boss room, waking up the spider in the process. Sung prepares to kill the dungeon boss. Sung then successfully defeats the giant spider, much to Jinho's shock. When Dong-suk and his group re-enter the boss room, he attempts to coerce Jinho into killing Sung, but Jinho refuses. Sung receives a new quest to kill Dong-suk's group under penalty of death, leading him to massacre them. He then exits the dungeon with Jinho, using the cover story of the others having been slain by the dungeon monsters. Jinho then offers Sung a ridiculous amount of money in exchange for his help in fulfilling requirements for guild certification. However, Sung rejects the offer. Sung notices that his daily mission keeps incrementing past the requirements. Upon maxing it out, he is rewarded with another instance key, this time to an S-rank dungeon that rewards a special potion that can heal any illness, which he realizes can be used to cure his mother and decides to risk it. The first battle within the dungeon is against the guardian Cerberus, which nearly kills Sung multiple times before he finally manages to slay the beast. His reward is the key to the castle Cerberus was guarding, within which is the ingredients he needs to craft the potion. Knowing he would die if he pressed on, he promises himself to return later and succeed. Meanwhile, the Hunters Association investigates the death of Dong-suk after learning the dungeon boss was defeated. Dong-suk's younger brother, the S-rank Dong-su, blames Sung and Jinho and swears revenge. Sung then visits his comatose mother and decides to push forward with getting stronger so that he can get the needed ingredients to save her. This leads Sung to accepting Jinho's request to aid in running dungeons to allow creation of a guild. To fulfill the party requirement for C-rank dungeons, the Hunters Association recruits the survivors of the double dungeon raid, Sung, Juhi, Chiul, Kim Sang-shik, and Kang Jianho, and due to a shortage of hunters in the area, the group is rounded out by several imprisoned hunters who serve in exchange for reduced sentences that are overseen by B-rank Kang Taishik. At a three-way junction, the group splits up. Kang uses the separation to murder the prisoners at the behest of their victim's father, and when Jianho and Sang-shik's path leads them to stumble upon the scene, Kang kills them to cover it up. Sung, Juhi, and Chiul race back to the scene and confront Kang, and Sung reveals his newfound power to kill him. Then a grateful Chiul covers for Sung. Later that night, Juhi asks Sung if he remembers, holding up a small essence stone. Juhi tells Sung she is retiring as a hunter and to look her up if he ever finds himself in her area. Jinho buys the dungeon rights for multiple C-rank dungeons and recruits low-ranked hunters to fill dungeon requirements, while Sung and him are the only ones who go in to clear them. On Sangmin, the White Tiger Guild's second administration team manager notices Sung's name and puts the pieces together that Sung must have reawakened. He then attempts to recruit Sung, but fails. Sung then receives a message. Having achieved a level requirement, he is now offered a job change quest. Sung starts the job change quest and is teleported to a massive castle. After fighting through waves of knights, assassins, and mages, all apparently mimicking those he's fought previously, he confronts Igris, the blood-red knight commander. Igris is every bit as powerful and more so than Sung, who only barely manages to slay the knight. The actual job change quest then activates, unleashing an unending horde of the monsters he'd fought on the way to Igris' chamber. Meanwhile, the S-rank hunters of Korea gather and head for Jeju Island, years ago the site of an S-rank dungeon break. Overwhelmed by the seemingly endless horde and recalling his prior circumstances, Sung nearly despairs before deciding to press forward. The timer for the daily quest expires and he is transferred to a penalty zone, which he uses to recover and prepare himself. Returning to the castle, he then succeeds in defeating the horde. As a reward, he gains the title Shadow Monarch and the ability to bring the dead back to life as his Shadow Army. Meanwhile, the S-rank hunters make a horrifying discovery. The Jeju Island S-rank monsters have begun to evolve and threaten to spread to the mainland.